Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. India condemns vandalism of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's residence, calls it a symbol of heroic resistance against the forces of occupation and oppression. US President Donald Trump imposes sanctions on the International Criminal Court for targeting the US states and its allies, repeating a move from his first term. Call for peace and end to crisis in Democratic Republic of Congo gained traction. UN calls for mediation even as African leaders are set to hold joint summit in Tanzania on Saturday. UN Human Rights Council's special session today. Liverpool set up League Cup final with Newcastle after thrashing Tottenham Hotspur for 4-0 at Anfield. India has condemned the vandalism of Bangladesh's founding leader Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's residence in Dhaka. Responding to media queries regarding destruction of the historic residence of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, India's External Affairs Ministry said, and I quote, "It is regrettable that the historic residence of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the symbol of the heroic resistance of the people of Bangladesh against the forces of oppression and occupation, was destroyed on February 5th, 2025. Further, the ministry added that all those who value the freedom struggle that nurtured Bangla identity and pride are aware of the importance of this residence for the national consciousness of Bangladesh. This act of vandalism should be strongly condemned." Tensions are running high in Bangladesh as supporters and opponents of ousted former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina clash over the remains of a historic building linked to her family. Violent protests have erupted and the authorities are struggling to contain the situation. We get you a detailed report ahead.
Dhaka is on the boil. Hundreds of people flocked to the remains of a building that once housed a museum dedicated to the family of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Protesters were seen dismantling the structure, tearing apart bricks and metal as anger over the country's political crisis intensified.
Awami League has this cult figure, Mujib, and they have used this cult figure to stay in the power in the last few terms. They have snitched the vote and they have done all the crimes in the name of Chetona or the, liberation war stuff and Mujib. And as we know, they always use this Mujib term to, suppress us, to use fascism.
The chaos erupted earlier on Wednesday when a massive crowd of protesters set fire to the home of Bangladesh's founding leader Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who was also Hasina's father. The attack came shortly after Hasina delivered a fiery speech on social media urging her supporters to rise against the interim government.
Why don't you, Hasina, leave us in peace? You and your people looted and emptied the entire country. Now live in luxury as per your wish. Why are you trying to incite Bangladeshi people again?
In response, Hasina strongly condemned the attack on her father's residence, calling it a blatant act of political violence. She accused the interim government of failing to protect historical landmarks and vowed to fight back against what she described as an attempt to erase her family's legacy. As Bangladesh grapples with escalating unrest, the situation remains volatile. With deep political divisions and rising tensions, all eyes are on the interim government's next move to restore order. Bureau Report, DD India.
US President Donald Trump has signed an executive order sanctioning the International Criminal Court, accusing it of illegitimate and baseless actions targeting America and Israel. The measure places financial and visa restrictions on individuals and their families who assist in ICC investigations of American citizens or allies. In January, the US House of Representatives voted to sanction the ICC after it issued an arrest warrant for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu over war crimes allegations in Gaza, which Israel denies. The ICC also issued a warrant for a Hamas commander. The White House accused the ICC of placing constraints on Israel's right to self-defense, while accusing the body of ignoring Iran and anti-Israel groups. Trump's signing of the executive order came as Netanyahu was visiting Washington. Trump's order said ICC's recent actions set a dangerous precedent that endangered Americans by exposing them to harassment, abuse, and possible arrest. A U.S. judge has temporarily halted President Donald Trump's plan, offering incentives to accept a buyout and resign their posts before a Thursday midnight deadline. Now, the federal judge said that the plan would be paused until a hearing on Monday, when he could determine the merits of a lawsuit filed by federal employee unions. The offer is part of an ongoing effort by the Trump administration to cut government spending and bureaucracy. The White House says more than 40,000 employees have accepted the offer to resign in exchange for pay until 30th of September. A lawyer for the Justice Department said federal employees would be notified that the deadline had been paused. The White House, in a statement, appeared to see a temporary halt as a way to increase the number of resignations. The first U.S. military plane carrying a group of illegal migrants from the U.S. arrived this week at the U.S. detention facility at Guantanamo Bay in Cuba. Around 10 migrants were transported to Guantanamo Bay on a military aircraft. The Trump administration stated that the flight carried alleged members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, but did not disclose specific charges or convictions. It is part of President Trump's pledge to deport migrants to the naval base, a move strongly rejected by Cuban authorities. Trump has recaptured the White House, promising a broad immigration crackdown and record deportations. Around 680 undocumented Peruvians detained in the United States await deportation in the coming weeks. The Peruvian embassy in Washington reported that as of February, 5,340 Peruvians have deportation orders and 343 are awaiting possible deportation orders. Now, according to the Peruvian Foreign Ministry, approximately 320,000 Peruvians live illegally in the U.S. out of over 1 million residing in the country. Since 2022, when Peru and the U.S. signed an agreement on handling undocumented individuals, the U.S. has deported around 12,080 Peruvians. Panama has rejected the United States' claim that it has secured free passage for government vessels through the Panama Canal while bowing to U.S. pressure to quit a key Chinese project. Panama President Jose Raul Mulino expressed his rejection of managing U.S.-Panama ties based on lies and falsehoods after the State Department claimed that U.S. government vessels would be able to pass the Panama Canal without paying a fee. The Panama Canal Authority issued a statement late on Wednesday denying the claim from the U.S. State Department that Panama's government had agreed to no longer charge crossing fee for U.S. government vessels. Trump has accused Panama of charging excessive rates to use its Strait Passage, one of the busiest in the world. Mulino also said that Panama had formally presented a document to exit the Belt and Road Initiative, but denied the decision had been made at the request of the U.S. Mulino said that he had asked his ambassador in Washington to take firm steps to deny the Trump administration's claims.
I have to say that I must reject this statement from the US State Department because it is based on a falsehood. That's not how bilateral relations between the two countries, friends and partners throughout the history should be handled. Our ambassador in Beijing submitted the corresponding document according to the agreement. To announce the cancellation of 90-day notice, I think the agreement says so. So that's the decision I made.
The United States on Thursday has seized a Venezuelan government airplane in the Dominican Republic, stating that it breached U.S. sanctions, export controls and money laundering regulations. The action, overseen by U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, marks the second such seizure in recent months and was executed as he concluded his Latin America tour. A Homeland Security official marked the plane with a warrant while it was stationed for maintenance in Santo Domingo. According to the State Department, Venezuelan officials used the plane to fly to Greece, Turkey, Russia, Nicaragua and Cuba and had taken it to the Dominican Republic for maintenance.
Since then, that aircraft was utilized for every single state visit by the illegitimate President Nicolas Maduro, to include the 2023 U.S. Venezuela prison as well. We were able to get the money to fix this aircraft and proceed with the forfeiture, with the seizure of the aircraft, sir.
Israel has informed the United Nations Human Rights Council that it will follow the United States in withdrawing its participation, the ambassador to the UN in Geneva said on Thursday. Council members have frequently raised allegations of Israeli human rights violations in the Gaza conflicts. Israel rejected the finding and said it takes care to avoid civilian casualties. It has long criticized the Geneva-based body and has disengaged in the past. Israel's ambassador to the UN in Geneva, Daniel, said that Human Rights Council has been a biased body since its beginning, with dictatorships lecturing democracies on human rights.
We are very close to the United States, but this step was not coordinated. We have been for a long time complaining about the things that I mentioned today, and this was a very good opportunity following the step of President Trump to also take our step that would have happened probably anyway.
Let's get to updates on Russia-Ukraine conflict now. Ukraine received the first batch of French Mirage 2000 fighter jets as well as US-made F-16 fighters on Thursday. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky confirmed the arrival of jets as European allies seek to strengthen Kyiv's hand in the conflict. The fighter jets will now participate in defending the skies of Ukraine against Russian missiles and aircraft. Ukraine has repeatedly pressed Western allies to supply it with increasingly advanced arms and ammunition, including armored vehicles, tanks, long-range missiles and F-16 fighters since the beginning of the conflict. While the Russian Foreign Ministry said that the United States needed to formulate its policy on ending the conflict in Ukraine and that Moscow could then base its own position on specific US action.
As for the role or possible role of the United States in resolving the crisis around Ukraine, once again, everything will depend on concrete actions and on the plane of the new administration embodied in these actions. For now, there are many words and many statements, but there is no clarity on the steps being taken by the United States.
The European Bank for Reconstruction and Development plans to invest at least 1.5 billion euros this year to support Ukraine's economy. EBRD President Odile Renaud-Basso said that the bank would keep its focus on Ukraine's private sector, particularly energy, as well as national and municipal infrastructure. The bank has stepped up operations in Ukraine, investing more than 6.2 billion euros across various sectors since the start of the conflict. Last year, the bank devoted a record 2.4 billion euros to the country.
Last year we invested, when we deployed 2.4 billion euros of investment in the country, increasing from 2023, and since the beginning of the war we deployed 6.2 billion, which is much more than what we were doing before the war. So we really step up our investment in the country, and our plan is to continue with this kind of level of investment. At minimum, I think we aim to have 1.5 billion of investment, but if we can do more, as what happened last year, we will do it.
United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has urged for mediation in the escalating Eastern Congo crisis. Guterres called for an immediate end to hostilities, urging all players to act together for peace, while also reiterating the conflict risks the region and also engulfing the entire region.
Silence the guns, stop the escalation, respect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, uphold international human rights law and international humanitarian law. There is no military solution. It's time for all the signatories of the Peace, Security and Cooperation Framework for the DRC and the region to honor their commitments.
The conflict between the M23 rebel group and the Congolese government escalated in January, resulting in at least 2,900 deaths in the city of Goma, as per the UN Office of Coordination for Humanitarian Affairs. Congo is seeking a UN Human Rights Council investigation into the alleged rights violations in Goma. The Democratic Republic of Congo's parliament held an extraordinary session this week to discuss solutions to the eastern conflict as rebels backed by Rwanda continue to seize territory. The National Assembly has worked tirelessly to prepare proposals for President Felix Tshisekedi ahead of a regional summit in Tanzania starting on Friday, which he is likely to attend alongside Rwanda's President Paul Kagame. Some lawmakers, however, have opposed dialogue with armed groups, citing concerns over democratic principles and territorial integrity.
We must seize this moment to provide the President of the Republic with constructive contributions to secure victory in this war, both diplomatically and politically.
The conflict has intensified with rebels seizing key city Goma and advancing towards Bukavu, with illegal exploitation of mineral resources in the region being identified as a significant factor contributing to the ongoing crisis. Congo has accused Rwanda of supporting the rebels in the east, a claim that Rwanda denies. Meanwhile, in a show of control, rebels gathered hundreds of people in a stadium in Goma on Thursday, introducing new administrators for the areas they have captured. Despite declaring a unilateral ceasefire, the rebels continued their advance, seizing another mining town in South Kivu province and pushing towards the provincial capital Bukavu. The advance came after the rebels took control of Goma, the largest city in eastern Congo, last week. You're watching DD India Live. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, PM apprises the nation of his government's policies benefiting the interest of all sections of the society during the debate on the motion of thanks to President's address in the Rajya Sabha. BAP's Hindu Mandir and Cultural Centre, the largest Hindu temple in South Africa, inaugurated. US changes its policy for transgender athletes, allows only female at birth to compete in women's sports.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. After the break, you're watching DD India Live. The debate on the motion of thanks to the President's address wrapped up in the Rajya Sabha on Thursday, following Prime Minister Narendra Modi's fiery address. The PM was forthright about his government's policies being in the interest of the nation's development and benefiting all sections of society. He also took on the opposition, particularly the Congress, with aggression. DD India's Dibindu Mandal gets us more.
The Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, delivered a scathing attack on the opposition in his address to the upper house of the Indian Parliament. His speech was direct and forceful. He slammed the Congress party, accused it of prioritizing family over development.
कांग्रेस के मॉडल में सर्वोपरि है फैमिली फर्स्ट और इसलिए उनकी नीति रीति उनकी वाणी उनका वर्तन उस एक चीज को संभालने में ही खपता रहा है.
The Prime Minister credited his government for shifting from a model of appeasement, that is Tushtikaran, to Santushtikaran, or contentment, after coming to power in 2014. The Prime Minister highlighted his government's push for inclusive development driven by the motto Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. Citing examples, he spoke about strengthening the SC/ST Act and granting constitutional recognition to the OBC Commission. The Prime Minister also highlighted the progress under the Vishwakarma scheme, Mudra Yojana, and the government's efforts to uplift the marginalized communities, including fishermen. Infrastructure development also took center stage. The Prime Minister mentioned stalled projects that have now been revived and underscored how India has emerged as a mobile phone manufacturing hub. In his speech, the Prime Minister assured the middle class and the neo-middle class that his government stands firmly with them. He stressed the importance of increasing respect for the middle class, recognizing their role in nation building.
हम 70 साल से ऊपर के किसी भी वर्ग के क्यों न हो, किसी भी समाज से क्यों न हो, उनको आयुष्मान योजना का लाभ देकर के और उसका सबसे बड़ा लाभ मिडिल क्लास के बुजुर्गों को मिल रहा है। आदरणीय सभापति जी, हमने देश में 4 करोड़ घर बनाकर हमारे देशवासियों को दिए, जिसमें से 1 करोड़ से ज्यादा घर शहरों में बने हैं। हमने घर खरीदने वालों के साथ बहुत बड़ा फ्रॉड हुआ करता था, उनको सुरक्षा देना बहुत जरूरी था और इसी सदन में हमने रेरा का कानून बनाया है, जो आज मध्यम वर्ग के घर के सपने के खिलाफ जो रुकावटें थी उसको दूर करने का महत्वपूर्ण हथियार बना है।
After the PM's speech, the motion of thanks to the President's address was passed in the upper house of the Parliament. With this, the motion of thanks to the President addressed is passed in both the houses of the Indian Parliament. The stage is now set for the crucial budget debates that will begin on Friday. Dibyendu Mondol's report for DD India.
The spark of spirituality is very much alive in South Africa with the opening of the BAPS Hindu Mandir and Cultural Centre. This is the largest Hindu temple in South Africa, which was inaugurated by Mahant Swami Maharaj, who travelled from India specially for the occasion. DD India's correspondent Nazneen Ismail gets us more.
The largest Hindu temple in the southern hemisphere has been unveiled, attracting thousands of worshippers. Led by Mahant Swami Maharaj, the 92-year-old spiritual leader of the Bocha Sanwasi Akshar Purushottam Swaminarayan Sanstha, known as BAPS, who travelled from India for the occasion, the temple aims to promote intercultural dialogue and prayer. The temple represents a significant milestone for the Hindu community in South Africa. Despite less than 2% of South Africans identifying as Hindu, the religion holds great prominence among the country's Indian population. Launching the first phase of the Multicultural Centre and Temple, South Africa's Deputy President Paul Mashatile stressed that the principles of this place resonate with South Africa's national ethos of Ubuntu.
The principles of Dharma, Seva or service, and unity that BAPS upholds indeed resonate deeply with our national ethos of Ubuntu. They believe in our shared humanity and interconnectedness.
So we are so honored to have so many guests from different corners of the globe, actually. People from Canada, people from the UK, people from the USA, rubbing shoulders from Dubai. And you all know about the great Abu Dhabi Mandir. So we are very honored that we have people from different dialects coming to this Mandir. We have Lord Muruga, the deity has been installed in the Mandir. We have Tirupati Balaji as well. And we're learning about different people of different dialects right here under the banner of Hinduism. We're very, very honored and very happy indeed to have everyone under this one, the blue skies of South Africa.
Great, thanks for having me here, and of course we are very thrilled, we are very excited to be at this newly developed cultural complex here in North Riding, Randburg. It's obviously the biggest in the Southern Hemisphere, and I think the community is proud of it, as they should be. And it's definitely giving a new impetus to the area, of course, uniting people in a completely different way. I think what I'm impressed about is to see that diversity, the harmony and the unification that's really happening here today.
Devotees were fortunate to seek blessings from Swamiji as he filed past the congregation in a special ceremony. The BAPS, Sri Swaminarayan Hindu Mandir and Cultural Centre in Johannesburg is a gift to South Africa. It symbolizes hope and unity. The inauguration ceremonies shall continue over the next few days. I'm Nazneen for DD India, Johannesburg, South Africa.
And from here, we now turn focus to sports. Liverpool thrashed Tottenham Hotspur 4-0 at Anfield on Thursday to set up the League Cup final against Newcastle United. Cody Gakpo, Mohamed Saleh, Dominic Szoboszlai and Virgil van Dijk were on target for the Reds. Now they will face Newcastle at Wembley on March 16 for the first silverware of the English season. Newcastle saw off Arsenal 2-0 and 4-0 on aggregate on Wednesday to secure their second final in 3 years. Also, the governing body for US Collegiate, or before that, we tell you that the final will be Liverpool's 15th in the League Cup, but a first in English football for Liverpool's Dutch manager Arne Slot, who replaced Jurgen Klopp at the end of the last season. And the governing body for the US Collegiate Sports changed its policy for transgender athletes on Thursday, allowing only those assigned female at birth to compete in women's sports. The move by the National Collegiate Athletic Association came one day after President Donald Trump issued an executive order aimed at banning transgender athletes from girls' and women's sports. The order allows federal agencies to deny funding to groups that do not consider birth-assigned genders in determining sex. All right, that's it in this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can download the respective QR codes. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.